गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत नः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Dear friends, we are in this 15th mantra. In the last class, I just read out this mantra. We just had an adequate time to read out the mantra and then I just broadly explained the meaning. We have to read the bhashyam. This mantra is in this 15th mantra of second valli. That is, Sarve Vedayat Padamamananti Tapamsi Sarvani cha Yadvadanti Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Bravim Yomityetat. So that is the mantra. Sarve Veda Yat Padamamananti. That which is proclaimed, that which is reiterated by all the Vedas in unison, without any discard. They talk about this particular padam, this particular symbol or this particular goal, this particular sadhanam. So padam, I was telling, pada has several meanings. Padam can mean a word, padam can mean a goal, padam can mean a sadhana. So all the Vedas, they talk about this padam. Let us take it as a word right now. Then tapamsi sarvani cha yadvadanti. All the tapas, all the human activity, tapa is all the karmani, all the human activity talks about this only. That is, all the goal of all human activity, the ultimate goal of all human activity is this only. Then yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti, desiring which all the people they move towards that and practice so many austerities, that is brahmacharya, etc. And then tat te padam sangrahena bravimi. That padam, that word or that particular status or that particular goal, I am going to tell you. Om ityetat. That is what is called Om. So that is the shloka, mantra. Let us read the bhashyam. Sarve Vedaha Yat Padam Padaniyam Gamaniyam Avibhagena Amananti Pratipadayanti. So here one more point we have to see here. Sarve Vedaha Yat Padam Padaniyam. Padaniyam is that which can be attained. Pada, the very meaning of pada is Padyate iti padam, that by which you attain something. Padaniyam, that which has to be attained. Shankaracharya also says Padaniyam Gamaniyam. Gamaniyam is that which has to be reached. Gam dhatu means go. Gam is go. Padyate, that is reaching, attaining. This is reaching. That which has to be, that goal which has to be reached or attained. Then avibhagena. Avibhagena means without any discord anywhere, without any discord and tone. All they talk in unison, in one voice. As we say, in one voice, all the Vedas talk about this. So here we have to note one point, because we are always made to believe that Vedas, they talk about so many gods. People come to us and say, oh, you are worshipping so many gods, isn't it? We are made to believe that you are worshipping Rama, you are worshipping Krishna, you are worshipping Shiva, you are worshipping Shakti, you are worshipping Hanuman, this, that and so many things, and also a snake and also something else you are worshipping. And we really think, yeah, that is so. But we don't read Gita. Or we don't read passages like this, which says, Sarve Vedaha Yat Padamamananti. Because there is only one thing which is ultimately told in the Vedas. The Vedas unanimously talk about only one thing. You may say various things. You may say Agnaye Swaha, Indraya Swaha, Varunaya Swaha, Pushne Swaha. All these things you say, we know that Vedanta talks about two levels. Vedanta talks about one supreme level called Brahman. There is the other level which is that say transactional level, or the world of say day-to-day transaction as we call it. So that is the Vyavaharika Satta. At the Vyavaharika level, you talk about a religion, you talk about some god form. It may be a formless god or a god with form, but there is a god having some function. It may be a Nirakara or Sakara God, but he is a Saguna. This is the level at which all religions they talk. Even those who say, my religion does not talk about a God with a form and whatnot, they also talk about a God with a function. He has got a duty. He has got a chosen tribe. He has got some chosen people. He favors his people and then hates the other people. So that sort of thing is there. We are going beyond that. So we are saying all forms and shapes, they are all conceived in one thing only. So that we have to remember. We may say various things, but ultimately every day we also read the mantra. Though on one hand we say Namaste Vayu Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi. When addressing Vayu, you say you are the Brahman. When addressing something else, you are the Yam Brahma Vedanta Vido Vadanti. You talk about Ganesha. But then ultimately you say that Sabrahma Sashiva Saharisendra Sotshara Paravaswarat. You say that this is the same is Brahma, the same is Vishnu, the same is Shiva. That is what is called Aksharam. So this is what we have to always remember. So when we should not be led to believe that we are people worshipping so many gods, so many god forms, etc. These are all things which are visualized in the one and single Chaitanya. That is what we have to remember. So Sarve Vedaha Yat Padamamananti, that is Pratipadayanti. Then Tapamsi Sarvanicha Yad Vadanti Yat Praptyarthani Ityarthaha. Yat Praptyarthani means they are all intended to achieve that. Praptyartham. Duritachaya Praptyartham. Prapti Artham. That is meant to achieve that. Praptyarthani means these are all meant to all the human effort, all these yajna, yaga and so many other things. Tapamsi. And it may be Karma Yoga, it may be Dhyana Yoga, all the yogas which we talk about in Gita. Maybe Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and all these yogas, they only ultimately they are meant for that padam only. They are meant to achieve, they are meant to attain that particular padam. Tat praptyarthani, what? Tapamsi sarvani, all these are tapamsi. Tapamsi, for some other commentators, the meaning given is karmani. Tapamsi means all human activity, all endeavor, all human endeavor, all the rituals we do, all the prayers we utter, all these things. All these are tapamsi. And also meditation, all types of meditations. These are all included in this word tapamsi. Then yadichantaha brahmacharyam gurukulavasa lakshanam anyadva brahma praptyartham charanti. So this brahma praptyartham eva te charanti. That is, in order to attain that brahma only, they follow a particular path. Charanti. Charati means moves, goes ahead. Charanti means they move ahead in that particular path. What is that? Yadichantaha brahmacharyam charanti, desiring which all these people they follow the path of austerity. Brahmacharyam, as I was saying, it can mean two things. At a very, very routine level, brahmacharya is something, a physical restraint, say celibacy, what we usually refer to, celibacy or sexual restraint. That is a usual, very limited meaning. Brahmani charati iti brahmachari. That is one whose mind is devoted or oriented towards Brahma or the supreme reality. So that is a brahmachari. And one who is following that path, he is doing that brahmacharyam charanti. So we are referring to such people, those who are in that path of Brahman. So what is that Brahman? We are also going to see the two levels of Brahma. One is at Nirguna level and one is at Saguna level. The next mantra we are going to see. Sadhana is sadhaka, when he realizes he is a Brahma.
No, brahmachari.
Yeah, sadhaka is a brahmachari. Sadhaka, because he is avoiding all other bad things. A sadhaka, he is a brahmachari. You and we are brahmacharis. There is no doubt about it. Somebody may have a name, some Dhirendra brahmachari or some other brahmachari, and maybe in politics. But we are brahmacharis because we are in this path. So that is it. Then yadichantaha brahmacharyam gurukulavasa lakshanam anyadva. So brahmacharyam is characterized by staying in a gurukula. Gurukulavasa lakshanam means lakshana. Whenever this word comes, it is characterized by, that is the meaning. Characterized by stay in a gurukula. Anyadva, it can be otherwise. He need not stay in a gurukula. He can be independently pursuing a path, independently doing some tapas. So that is also considered brahmacharya. Anyadva ब्रह्म प्राप्त्यर्थं चरन्ति तत् ते तुभ्यं पदं यत् ज्ञातुमिच्छसि संग्रहेण संक्षेपतः ब्रवीमि. So that I am going to tell you, that which you want to know. Yat jnatum ichchasi means that which you want to know. Tat te padam, that particular word, I am going to tell you in brief. Sangrahena. What is that sangrahena? Sangraha means samkshepena. In brief. So what all the Vedas are going to say, and what all human effort, they say all the human effort to what aim they are going to attain. All these things put together, and that for which all the people they do all these austerities, all things put together, I am going to tell you very, very briefly in one symbol, that is called Om. Om ityetat. So this Om is something which is very unique. Om, we all know that it is something which is a very, very sacred word for us. Whenever we start a mantra, we say Om. Whenever we start a prayer, we say Om. And at the end of the prayer again, at the end of Sandhya Vandana, we say Om Tat Sat. At the end of Puja, Devata Archana, we say Om Tat Sat. So at the end of all things, and also beginning, we say Om, Om, Om. So this probably it is there in other cultures too. In other cultures means, for example, Christians, they say Amen. Some other, Islam says Ameen. So we do not know whether there is any similarity between these two things. I don't know whether anybody has done any research, because those two, of course, they are later, they have emerged later. But then much earlier, we have seen this Zoroastrianism, Zend-Avesta. We have got this book called Zend-Avesta, which is supposed to be very, very close to Rig Veda. I have not read Zend-Avesta, but I have read a couple of passages from that, which look so close to Sanskrit, this Rig Veda. Agni Mile Purohitam. There is a mantra in Zend-Avesta starting with that. Agni Mile Purohitam. Vrutraghana. Zend-Avesta talks about Vrutraghana. So we do not know how this Om also, whether it is there and how ancient Om is there. We do not know whether anybody has done any research on that, any study on that. But our Vedanta, of course, it gives a lot of information about what this Om means. This Omkara, there is a reference to this in Kathopanishad. There is a detailed discussion in Mandukya. In great detail, Mandukya Upanishad talks about this Omkara. And then the Mandukya Upanishad goes to the extent of saying that Sarvam Omkara Yeva. What all we see in this world is Omkara only. Bhutam Bhavat Bhavishyat Tat Sarvamapi Omkara Yeva. Whatever was there in the past, whatever is in the present, whatever is going to come, all these things is an Omkara. So this is what we have to understand, what exactly is this Omkara. So if we see this Omkara, I'll just tell you what is this thing. Let us analyze this symbol. Omkara, as I said, it is a symbol. It is a symbol which has 3 letters. It has 3 letters, A, U, Ma. So that is why in English, when they write in 2 ways, that is O and M, Om. And more strictly, people who want to be more strict, they write A, U, M, A, U, Ma, the 3 sounds. And we know in the Sanskrit alphabet, as Sanskrit alphabet you must be knowing, there are 56 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. The first letter in Sanskrit alphabet is A, because that is the primary human sound. The primary sound of a human being is A. A child, as soon as it is born, the child will cry only A. The child will only say A. And then, whether it is in England, English child will not say A. The child will not cry A. That child, English child also cries A only. Then, so A is the place of origin of all words. So A, Ye, let us say, Ye, with the moment we open our mouth, the first sound comes, that is A. And all sounds stop when we close our lips. We say, close our lips and A is the beginning, that ends. So that is the end. So the beginning is A and end is And in between, the transition is through U, Om. It slightly starts with A sound, Om, and then it goes into a sort of humming sound. So A and U and Ma, what do they symbolize? So if we just analyze this Shabda, we see that the beginning of all sounds is A. And then of course there are Ka, Cha, Ta, Ta, Pa in between, Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga, Nga, Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja, Nga. But then with all, for all that, the K plus A becomes Ka, K plus A becomes Kha, Ch plus A becomes Cha. So something like that. In everything that A has to be added. That is, the vowel has to be added, otherwise it will not become a full-fledged letter. So this is the primary sound, and then this intermediate sound is U. So then this A and Ma, between this A, U, Ma, all the human expressions, what all we utter, and then what all we speak, what all human beings have uttered in the past, present and future, all human verbiage, all the Shabda Jalam is contained in this, in between these two, in between this A and Ma. So this is the first thing which we see, that is all the Shabda Prakriya, it starts with A and ends with Ma. So all the words, it ends with that only. If we see the Sanskrit alphabet also, say in between there are certain words, there are certain letters. What is this? Ka, Ka, Ga, Ga, Nga, Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja, Nya, Ta, Ta, Da, Da, Na. The words are like that. These letters, how these things are called sparsha. In English we call them consonants. In Sanskrit we call them sparsha. Sparsha, it is called sparsha because the tongue comes into operation. When we say A, just there is nothing similar, just this the direct sound coming from the vocal cords. When we say Ma, that sound is closed. Once we close the say lips, that is closed. So in between the tongue comes into play. The tongue dances in so many ways, and then it produces so many sounds. For example, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga, when we say this tongue, in the mouth there are two organs, that is three rather. One is the palate which is there above. There is a roof of the mouth, it is called a palate. There is a tongue which is there. The tongue touches this palate in different points. There is this teeth ridge. This teeth ridge, you know, this tip of this, the upper edge of this teeth, that the teeth ridge is there. That is one portion. So these three portions jointly they produce so many sounds. When we say Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga, this what is this tongue? The rear portion of the tongue is coming into contact with the rear portion of this palate, and then it is producing all those sounds. So it is classified. Sanskrit language, it has got such a classified structure of this alphabet. That is something which is amazing, and it has amazed all the linguists. Very recently I was reading a book called The Empires of the Word, W-O-R-D, word, Empires of the Word, written by one English linguist. A gentleman called Ostler, O-S-T-L-E-R. So he has devoted about 60 pages to write about Sanskrit and the glory of Sanskrit and how peacefully it has gone from this country to various other continents. So the influence of Sanskrit even on languages, in all the languages in the southeast, including Japan. So he has devoted so many pages on that. So it is such a beautifully structured language. So this sounds which I was telling, Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. Then when we come to Cha, Cha, Cha means a larger portion of the tongue comes into contact with a larger portion of the palate. Cha, Cha, Ja, Ja and whatnot. So like that, Nya. So these are one set. Similarly, Ta, Ta, the tongue again, it bends back. Tongue slightly bends back and touches the middle of the palate. Ta, Ta, Da, Da, Na, middle of the palate, that is another set. Then Ta, Tha, Da, Da, tongue comes into contact with this teeth ridge, upper portion of the teeth ridge, Ta, Tha, Da, Da. Then Pa, Pa, Ba, Ba, when you are closing your lips and then uttering these sounds. So this is how all this Shabdajala, this starts with A and ends with Ma. There are certain subsequent things called Yara, Lava. They come in between. There are certain irregular letters which come in between. So this is how this entire, all the words which a human being utters in any language, not only in Sanskrit but in Telugu, Hindi, Marathi or Chinese or Mandarin, whatever it is, all these things, they fall between these things. So that is why we say that this Om represents all this Shabda Jalam. Om represents all the names. You see, name and form are again two words which we have to see. Suppose we see there is a something. Let us call this ghatam, because Sanskrit people, they are very fond of calling everything a ghatam. Ghatam is a clay pot. So there is the clay pot, it comes into existence from this clay only, and then it has got a name and form. Suppose that form goes, even when the form goes, the name may remain. The name may remain, but then that form cannot exist without a name. The form and name are so inseparable. And then when the form goes away, what remains is what is this mrittika. So that is what this Chandogya says, Vacharambhanam namadheyam mrittiketyeva satyam. All these names and forms are only just name. Vacha arambhanam namadheyam. Thus giving of a name is just something, you are just giving a name. It is only vacha arambhanam. It is only for the sake of utterance. Then, but what is the truth? Mrittika. That is the only thing which is satyam. So this all names, whatever name you say, all names are contained in this Omkara. So that is one first proposition which Vedanta says. All names, say they are modifications of this Omkara only. Starting with A and ending with Ma, all names are modification of this Omkara only. Then let us analyze this Rupam. Rupam means an object which has a shape. You are able to follow? An object which has a shape. Suppose you take a ghatam. Ghatam, what exactly is that ghatam? Suppose I see this. I see this. What is this experience? This is leaving a thing, an impression in my mind. This ghatam, when I say I see this is an experience which is in the mind. Suppose I do not see this, it does not exist for me. Suppose you also do not see this, it does not exist for you. Suppose nobody sees this, it does not exist. So any object is an experience in your mind only. An object with a form is an experience in your mind, isn't it? So all objects which we see, they are experiences in our mind. And experience is nothing but our own, a vikara or a modification in Chaitanya. All the experience is a modification or a vikara, what we call it, in English, in Sanskrit we call vikara, of the consciousness only. Isn't it? Experience, any experience is a modification of that vikara, is a modification of that consciousness only. So a ghatam exists in experience. A ghatam is any object, it is existing in experience, and ghatam is a vikara of that clay. Clay again is a vikara of something else, and then that something else is a vikara of that supreme thing called Maya, which is an emergence from that place, and Maya itself is some sort of appearance in that Brahman, which is nothing but Supreme Chaitanya. So all the things which we see, they are all these names and forms, they are all, they become, modifications or vikaras in that absolute Chaitanya we see. So names on one hand and then forms are on another. So we have seen two things, that this all names are but modification of Om. Just note it, all names are but a vikara or a modification of this Om, and all the forms are a modification or vikara of this Chaitanyam or this Atma. So this name and form, they become so inseparable, isn't it? They become so inseparable. So name is always associated with a form. So that is why in Kalidasa's Raghuvamsha, you must have heard about, you must have read the first shloka, Vagartha viva sampruptau Vagartha pratipattaye. That is, this Parvati and Parameshwara, they are compared to Vak and Artha. Vak, that is the sound. Artha is an object. Or Vak and Artha, the sound and an object, the name and form. These two things, so they are so inseparable. So that is how this Vak and this Parvati and Parameshwara are there. And then Kalidasa say praise to them for Vagartha Pratipattaye, for his enhancing his Vagartha Shakti, he prays to Parvati and Parameshwara. So like that, Vak and Artha, they are so inseparable. And so these two things, there again, one is a manifestation of Om, a modification of Om, and the other is a modification of this Chaitanya only. So with taking this as a sort of common factor, so equalize, so if this Om and Atma, they are you have to do some sort of abheda chintanam. That is, you meditate on them as though they are not dissimilar. You meditate on Om and meditate on Om as Atma, because all names are contained in this thing, this what is called Om, and all forms are nothing but this Chaitanya. So all names and forms, this Abheda is there. For the name and form, this Abheda is there, and because of that Abheda, you visualize this Brahma, this Omkara. You take this Omkara as something to symbolize this Atma. So this Omkara, which includes the whole Shabdajalam, the Omkara which includes all the words which are there in the world, all the words which have been uttered, which are now being uttered, and which are going to be uttered, it takes into account this Shabdajala, that is all the Shabdajala. And then this consciousness is something which includes all the things which appeared in the past, which are there now, and then which are going to come into existence in future. All these things. So there can be different objects. For example, in the second chapter of Gita we have seen in that Nasato vidyate bhavo, nabhavo vidyate sataha. For about 2 hours we discussed that shloka. So in that there is one statement. Say ghatam differs from patam, patam differs from something else. So this object differs from this object differs from this object. Everything is mutually exclusive. Ghatam is not patam, patam is not something else. So like that. So when you say, when this thing is lost, this exists, this exists, this exists. So this sat, that word called sat is there continuously. The principle of existence is something which is continuing to be there in all things. So that is what we have seen. That sat exists. Even when all things go away, there is what is called that sat. So that is why we say that sat is something which is always remaining. And like Sardarji says, Satnam ek hai dese. Sardarji, they have got a great slogan, Satnam ek hai. So like that Sat is something which is always there. So that is why we are supposed, this Vedanta says, you do this Abheda Chintanam because meditate on this Omkara. Meditate means, while meditating, you leave all these things, Shabdajala, you leave all this Rupam also. You leave this Nama, you leave this Rupa. This Nama and Rupa, this is all the content which is there on this either Om or in this Chaitanya. This Omkara has all the huge baggage of Nama. This Chaitanyam has got all the baggage of these shapes, all these things which appear. They are all the experiences. So they are all there. So when you meditate as Omkara is equal to this Brahman, you remove, you delete, you remove all this burden called all this Nama Rupa, and then think of it as absolute Chaitanya. So this Omkara Chintanam means this, leave these names and forms and then try to concentrate only on this Chaitanya. And that Chaitanya, that where that thoughtless state is called Brahman. So that is what Mandukya says. You go beyond all these things and then Sarvam Omkara Eva. That is what this Mandukya Upanishad says. So there is another way in which our books, they also talk about this Omkara, including Mandukya Upanishad. It again talks in a slightly different way. You see, a human being has 3 levels of experience, has 3 different stages, let us say. One is Jagrad Avastha, the other is Swapna Avastha, the other is Sushupti. Jagrad Avastha is the waking state, where we interact with the world and then we see all things and then the experiences are received and then, so that is what is that Jagrad Avastha. Then Taijasa, this Nidra, or not Nidra, this is Swapna Avastha. What is this Swapna Avastha? The Indriyas are withdrawn, but then the mind becomes active. The mind creates its own world. The mind is something Vedanta Paribhasha says, Taijasam Antahkaranam. This Antahkaranam is so active. It is a very active material. Taijasam, Taijasa Dravyam, Atyacha Taijasa Dravyam Manahad, it says. So it is a very active material. So it produces a world of its own. So that thing is called that Swapna Avastha. So there, while you are undergoing, seeing a Swapna, it appears to be as real as the real world, as the Jagrad world. So when you are dreaming of something, it looks so real, it is total, you don't feel any sort of difference, it is so real for you. So that is also an experience for you. Then the third stage is what? Sushupti, when that dream also goes, when the dream also disappears, and then you have a deep sleep, and then you just feel nothing. You just don't realize anything. But still, are you existing or not? There is Chaitanya which is existing. You are in that state of ajnana, but then there is a drashta, there is a seer, there is a seer who, there is something which sees that ajnana also. So that is called Sushupti. So that Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, that is waking, dream and sleep. These three things are analyzed, and then this and one point is consciousness is something which is existing in all the three levels. Consciousness is something which is there in Jagrat, in Sushupti, in dream, and also in Sushupti. So then how is Omkara related to that? Then what this Mandukya Upanishad says is, A represents this Jagrat world. A is something where this is all this world which we see when we are awake, that is Jagrat Avastha. Technically it is called Vishwa. Technically Jagrat Avastha, this situation is called Vishwa. Say Vishwa means it comes from a root called Vishu, Vishu Vyapto, that which pervades. So when you are awake, all our say sense organs, they go out everywhere, they pervade what all they see, what all they feel, what all they smell, what all they taste. They just, the sense organs, they just go around and then they experience the world. Vishu Vyapto, they just pervade the world as far as we go. So that is what is that Jagrat Avastha. A represents that Jagrat Avastha. Technically it is called Vishwa, Vishwa level. Then U represents that Swapna Avastha, where this Jagrat has come to close, and the mind has started creating its own world. That U represents that Swapna Avastha. There the individual is called Taijasa. In the first stage, Jagrat Avastha, the individual or Jiva is called Vishwa. The second level he is called Taijasa, because his Taijasa Antahkaranam is active. This Antahkaranam, which is such a brilliant material, that is such a fiery material, let us say. Taijasa means such a fiery thing, or something which is so active. So that is very active. So that that particular stage, the Jiva is called Taijasa. Then this Ma represents the Sushupti. And then the Sushupti level, the Jiva is called a Prajna. Prajna is somebody who is, Prajna, usually we refer to it as somebody who is an intelligent, Prajnulu, something like that. But here we are not talking about intelligent people. Prajna is associated with ignorance. But there is a Sakshi for that ignorance also. So going beyond that A, U, Ma, when you say Om, and then goes into a sort of humming thing, you are going into what is called this A, U, Ma, or these three things are called matras. Matra means a small measure. A is a measure, U is a measure, Ma is a measure. When you come close it and then go into a small humming sound, that is called Amatra, where you have gone beyond that. And then in this, beyond this Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, there is that Sakshi which is there, which is above all these things, that is called Turiya. This Amatra is equated to Turiya. So this Omkara is said to be having four padas, or four, say, not exactly parts, because these parts, ultimately they merge into that Turiya only. Similarly, this all these Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, they merge into that Turiya. This A, U, Ma merge into that Amatra. This Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, they merge into this Turiya. So that is how this Omkara is associated with these three stages and compared to these three stages. So that is one way in which say this Omkara Dhyanam is done. Then it also says, the Chandogya Upanishad also says, when you do this Omkara Dhyanam, you have to do it in such a way that suppose you go to a temple, there is a striking of that gong, that bell is rung. Tung, 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 tung. So that chiming of the bell is there. That chiming of the bell, continuous chiming of the bell is there. In between that tun, 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 but then leave this tun, 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 tun. Concentrate on that humming, huge, long humming thing. That is Omkara Dhyanam is like that. Om, Om, Om. So it goes on like that, this Omkara. And then you concentrate on that humming only, and then leave this Om. You are, say, over a period of time, then consciously you have to think that you are leaving this Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti and all that. If you are following this particular thing, or if you see the other thing, you are consciously aware that you are leaving all this Nama, Rupa and whatnot, all this Nama, Rupa you are rejecting, and then you are concentrating on that Shuddha Chaitanya. So where that stage of that continuity is there, continuity is heard, so that continuity of consciousness where all other names and forms they all merge, all the names and forms they merge in that continuity. So that state where it is also a sort of thoughtlessness. So that is what is called Brahman. So this is how this Omkara is described in this Chandogya Upanishad to some extent, to a large extent in say Mandukya Upanishad to a large extent, and also here not much is described, but in 3 mantras they are just telling the importance of this word Om. Because this Upanishad is saying so much about Om, we have to know what exactly and why exactly it is important, and in what context we have to understand it. Because Om is something which we always use for all mantras. For all the mantras we use, whether it is Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, for any other mantra you use. So that is why we have to see what is the overall gamut of meaning this particular symbol carries. So that is it. So let us see this thing. Om ityetat tadetat padam yad bubhutsitam tvaya yad etat Om iti Om shabda vachyam Om shabda pratikam cha. So he is saying using 2 words here, Om shabda vachyam, Om shabda pratikam. This Om shabda vachyam is that directly representing Brahma. Pratika, suppose you take this Omkara just to represent some small entity in that consciousness. Suppose you follow this some Lord Narasimha Swami or Lord Venkateshwara or some other god or some other deity, or you call it some other empirical Brahman. Say that particular thing you are visualizing in that Omkara. Omkara, you are using it as a symbol to visualize a lower Brahma, or Omkara is directly, it means that supreme consciousness only. Because Omkara, if we see the analysis which is there given in Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, Bhashyam and whatnot, Bhashyam and all that, you will see that Omkara is an expression of that Brahman only. But if you want to limit yourself to a lower thing, you can also limit yourself to that. So that is what it means. So Omkara tadetad omiti Om shabda vachyam Om shabda pratikam cha. It is also a vachyam, it is also a pratika. Pratikam is a symbol. So that is it. Let us read the next mantra. Ataha etadhyevaksharam brahma etadhyevaksharam param etadhyevaksharam jnatva yo yadicchati tasya tat. So this etadhyeva aksharam brahma, etat plus he plus eva, etadhyeva. Etadhyeva means this only, etat means this, he, eva, he means yasmat, because this only, that is what it means, because this only is that aksharam brahma. This only is that aksharam brahma. Aksharam brahma here refers to this apara brahma. Say, though aksharam we also refer to say supreme Brahman, because of the construction of this shloka, the commentators have given the meaning. Shankaracharya has given the meaning. Aksharam brahma means apara brahma. What is the meaning of apara brahma and para brahma? Apara means which is better, which is superior? Para. Forget about para is supreme. That para means supreme. That you please remember. Para is that supreme thing. Apara is na plus paraha, which is not supreme. That is slightly inferior. You are referring to an inferior Brahman. You are referring to a transactional level Brahman. You are referring to some Lord Krishna, Lord Venkateshwara, Lord this, Lord that, or any other god of any other religion also. because they all are in this level only, because they are all functional gods. They have got some responsibility. They are giving boons, they are giving punishments, they are this reward and punishment, Shishta Rashana, Dushta Shikshana, all these things they are doing. So which means they are all functioning like super cops, a cosmic super cops. So this is an inferior Brahma. We are talking about a reality which is beyond this level of this cosmic super cop. So that is the point which we have to see. So etad hi eva, because this only is this Aksharam Brahma. This is that Aksharam Brahma. Etad hi eva Aksharam Param. This again is that Supreme Brahma. This is also the Supreme Brahma. This is the inferior Brahma. This is the Supreme Brahma. We should not say inferior. Let us say the Karya Brahma, let us say, or let us say this Brahma at a transactional level, and Brahma, that Supreme Brahma. So we can say like that, that Apara Brahma and Para Brahma. Then etadhyeva aksharam jnatva. This, by knowing about this aksharam, aksharam also refers to word. Etadhyeva aksharam brahma. Say this word, the aksharam also means word. This particular word called Omkara, you call it a word or a symbol because there are 3 letters. We can't say it is a letter, it is a symbol or a word we can say. Etadhyeva aksharam jnatva. Having realized this, having known this or having realized this, yo yad ichchati tasya tat. Yo yad ichchati. Whatever a man wants, he gets it. Yo means yaha, the one who. Yad ichchati. Whatever he desires, tasya tat, he gets that. So if you want to get into a supreme level, you go to the supreme level. Or if you want to be content with some Swargam and all its benefits and whatnot, you do some yajna and then you do this, you propitiate Indra, you propitiate some other god and then go to Swarga. Or like today's paper says about, it talks about some mantrika, somebody who was doing some Shudra Puja. So Shudra Puja means, we will see that also in Gita. We will see a human being, depending on his own say attitude, depending on his own maturity and depending on his own sattvika, rajasa, tamasa gunas, the type of deva you worship. There is a saying, you tell me the god you worship and I'll tell you what you are. Like, you tell me your friends and I'll tell you what you are. You tell me your god, I'll tell you what you are. Because you have only superimposed all your qualities on that god. So if you say that that particular god is throwing stones on somebody, you are putting your own guna, your own attitude on that god. So God definitely is above all these things. So yo yad ichchati tasya tat means whatever a human being wants to be, at whatever stage a human being wants to be, he can be that. If you want Parabrahma, you go to that Parabrahma. If you do not want Parabrahma and you are content with this Aparabrahma, you be with this Apara Brahma. So you see this, so much of freedom of worship, you will never get in any religion. This is one point. This is another point which you have to note. For example, in the earlier mantra, we have seen, Sarve Veda Yat Padama Mananti. It very clearly says that the Vedas talk about only one reality, not about many realities. So this word, this thing says, this explains, Etadhyeva Aksharam Brahma. Yo yad ichchasi tasya tat. So such a freedom, you see, the Upanishad is saying, in whatever stage you want to remain, you remain. If you want to reach that Parabrahma, you go to that. If you want to remain at some other smaller level, you remain. But of course, Shudra Puja, etc., they are all condemned. I was telling about that Shudra Puja. Today's papers, they talk about some Swami, somebody calling himself a Swami and doing all these Shudra Pujas. So some TV channel, they did some sting operation and then they have exposed him. So these things, they are condemned in Vedanta. This type of Shudra Puja, doing all types of prohibited type of say pujas and whatnot, this is something which is condemned in Vedanta. In fact, Shankaracharya's main mission was that. During Shankaracharya's time, I was telling you, there were so many say types of practice, so many types of say cults, let us say. As today we may call them cults or practices, so many forms of worship, let us say. So many forms of worship, and then each man having his own type and then doing this sacrifices on one side, somebody sitting on dead bodies and then performing puja, somebody sitting on skulls and performing puja, somebody doing something else and then say intercourse and then doing puja. All types of stupid things were there which he had to condemn. So he said all these things are avaidika practices. And then he only said, he identified the 6 broad systems, that is called Ganapatyam, Shaivam, then Vaishnava, then Shakti, so like that. So he identified these 5 sun god and also Kumaraswamy, these 6 he identified, and then he brought them under the fold of Vedic, the Upanishadic philosophy. And then he wrote various stotrams. He wrote Ganesha Stotram, he wrote Narasimha Stotram, he wrote on Shiva, he wrote on Vishnu, he wrote on all these deities. And then he brought them under this Upanishadic philosophy. And then he removed all these unwelcome practices, all these bad practices like these Shudra Pujas and whatnot. So we should remember that we don't have the freedom to do that Shudra Puja. So Vedas do not accept it. So unfortunately, some people have been doing it, and unfortunately some other people have been foolishly following it. So there is the Shankaracharya who systematized all these things and then brought them all under this Upanishadic, under the umbrella of this Upanishadic philosophy. He is called Shanmata Sthapakacharya. He established means he formalized, he harmonized rather. In all other places in history, we see that religions were wiped out, very violently. In India, it did not happen. We are worshipping so many deities only because we did not wipe them out. We allowed them to exist. We allowed a lot of freedom for the person. Somebody doing Vishnu Puja, okay, you please do. But you have this philosophical content in your puja. You actually do this, you worship Vishnu as the Supreme Being. Somebody worshipping Shiva, okay, you worship Shiva as that Supreme Brahman. You worship Shakti as Supreme Brahman. You worship Ganesha as the Supreme Brahman. So this is how our saints and philosophers, they harmonized various systems. That is one point which we have to see here. Yo yad ichchati tasya tat. So is this mantra clear? Yes. Let us read the Bhashyam. Etadhyeva aksharam Brahma aparam. Etadhyeva aksharam param cha. So this aksharam or this symbol or this word is Brahma aparam. This is apara Brahma, that is the second, the Karya Brahma or transactional Brahma. Then etadhyeva aksharam param. This is that Supreme Brahman too. Then tayorhi pratikam etadaksharam etadhyeva aksharam. Pratikam is, for them, this is this pratika. This is a symbol. This is a symbol. Symbolizes Omkara, symbolizes that Supreme Brahman. Omkara symbolizes that Karya Brahma or transactional Brahma. Then etadhyeva aksharam jnatva upasya Brahma iti yo yad ichchati param aparam va tasya tat bhavati. So param aparam va, whatever, whether you want param or whether you want the aparam, tasya tat bhavati. That means it happens to him. That means somebody who is following this Supreme Brahma, he becomes Brahma. Because that is what Vedanta says, Brahmavit Brahmaiva bhavati. He becomes Brahma. Then somebody who is following that other Brahma, he becomes that the other Karya Brahma too. And then he goes and enjoys in that loka. That is why we say, when we talk about Omkara, we can call back what is this Gayatri mantra also. What do we say in Gayatri? Om Bhuh, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, Om Mahaha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam. What are these things? These are called Sapta Vyahruti. Sapta Vyahruti, what do they symbolize? These symbolize 7 different levels of achievements or attainments which a human being gets by doing so many sadhanas and so many rituals and so many things. So this Satya Loka, Om Bhuhu, Bhu is all pleasures in this world, Bhuvaha, this Antariksha, then Suvaha, Swaha, that is Swargaloka, then subsequently called Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, and then Satyam. These 7 levels are 7 levels of 7 states of experience, let us say, 7 states of happiness which a person is going to attain by following all these rituals. So this whatever are there in all these lokas, we call them lokas. Bhurbhuvasva, the 7 lokas also we say. These lokas are not exactly worlds. Shankaracharya repeatedly says that lokas are not some three-dimensional worlds. Lokas are again lokyante, lokyate, drushyante iti lokaha. They are various stages of experience. They are various stages of happiness, happiness which a person attains during his sadhana. Lokyante iti janmani also he says in Vashya. What is this? Ishavasya Upanishad Bhashya. We saw that also. So these lokas also referred to in this by the word Om. This Om, when we say all these things, Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Swaha, what does it mean? Bhu, what we call Bhuloka is Om, what we call Bhuvarloka is Om, what we call Suvarloka is Om, what we call Maha is Om. So like that, whatever is there in all these lokas, that is all these lokas again, they contain only name and form. So all these things are contained in this Om only. So that is what it means. So wherever you want to stay, whether you want to stay at this level or some other level or some other level, you please stay there only. So that is what it means. You stay at this level. Yo yadichati param aparam va. So you whatever level you want to stay, you be in that stage. Param aparam va tasya tadbhavati. Param chet jnatavyam. Aparam chet praptavyam. So here again these two things we have to see. This Supreme Brahma is something which is not praptavyam. Supreme Brahma is something which is not an apyam. Apyam, you know, something which can be attained by sadhana. Whatever is attained by sadhana is something which is ephemeral. What is going to say it is going to say it is having a time say lifetime. It is having a time limit. Let us say it is having a time limit. So Supreme Brahma, it is not attained. It is known. Supreme Brahma is something which is known because it is a Siddha Vastu. We are now talking, Upanishad is talking about a Siddha Vastu. Siddha Vastu means that which is already there in you. It is already there in you and me. We are not able to realize, we are not able to know that it is there. So that is why Upanishad calls this Vastu Siddha Vastu. It is not something to be attained. You have to only discover it. You have to only find it. You have to only know by removing all these shreds, all these so many layers of ajnana. So many layers of ajnana means Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, all these koshas are there. So many layers of ajnana you have to remove. And then you have to know that there is what is called this Shuddha Chaitanya. That is your basic personality and that is what you are. So that is what is the, that is why it is said, it is not prapyam, it is jnatavyam. So the Shankaracharya's words we have to carefully see. Param chet jnatavyam. If it is that Supreme Brahman, it is something which has to be known. Jnatavyam. That is by removing ajnana, you have to know it. Then aparam chet praptavyam. This apara Brahma is something which you have visualized. In that Chaitanya, you have visualized at some sort of intermediate level. So there, this is something which is praptavyam. You do some puja, you do some yajna, yaga and you do some other meditation and then you do meditation on Surya and then you attain that particular loka. You will do meditation on some other deity, you attain that loka. All these things, these are all attained, but they have got a time limit. So from that, you have to come back. So that is it. Is it clear?
Yes,
so this gneyam and praptavyam and gneyam, these two things we have to realize. Then yata eva mataha. Yataha eva mataha means because it is so. Yataha eva mataha, because it is so. Then let us read this next mantra. Etadalambanam shreshtham. Etadalambanam param. Etadalambanam jnatva. Brahmaloke mahiyate. So this alambanam. We are seeing that one word called alambanam. Etat alambanam. Etat means this. Alambanam. That is, you hold on to somebody, you hang on to somebody. That is what is alambanam. You just take a support to which on which you lean on. A support you take. So that is what is called alambanam. Shreshtam. Shreshtam is supreme. It is a very, very great thing. It is a very commendable or great alambanam. It is a great support. And etad alambanam param. This is the supreme alambanam. You will not get any better alambanam other than this. Suppose you say, no, I want to follow some other mantra. So there is nothing nothing beyond this Omkara, because all mantras are, you are prefixing this Omkara to all mantras. Whatever mantra you say, you are prefixing all this, you are prefixing this Omkara, and in that supreme thing only you are visualizing a small thing, isn't it? So beyond this there is no other alambanam, there is no other strategy, there is no other sadhana, let us say. Then etad alambanam jnatva means by knowing this alambanam or by realizing this alambanam. Omkara upasana, it has to be done knowingly. One has to understand this Omkara and then do upasana. So that is what that's what it is said. Omkara jnatva karaniyam. That is it. That is, you have to know this Omkara, you have to know the meaning of Omkara, and then we have to do this upasana. Etad alambanam jnatva brahmaloke mahiyate. Brahmaloke mahiyate. In brahmaloka, mahiyate means he excels. Maha means great. Mahiyate means he becomes a great guy. He becomes a great guy in that brahmaloka. What is that great thing? What is that loka, brahmaloka? Brahmaloka, again, two meanings we have to take. One is that supreme Brahma and one is that inferior Brahma, that our apara Brahma. When we talk about supreme Brahma, say Brahmaloka should be taken as Brahmaiva Lokaha Brahmalokaha. Brahma itself is that thing. So that Brahmaloka, there is no other separate place called Brahmaloka or anything like that. So Brahmaloke mahiyate, it does not mean that this man physically, there is some sort of divine chariot comes and then this man goes into Brahmaloka and then there he is welcomed and whatnot. We should not think like that. So Brahmaloke means Brahmaiva Lokaha. He is in that state of Brahman awareness. So he is in that state of happiness, he is in that state of awareness. So that is what is Brahmaloka when we talk about Supreme Brahman, Brahmaiva Lokaha. Then when you talk about Apara Brahma, this Brahmaloka, the Vigraha Vakyam should be, for a Samasa there is what is called a Vigraha Vakyam. You know that Samasa and Vigraha Vakyam, the Vigraha Vakyam should be Brahmanaha Lokaha Brahmalokaha. That is that Loka, that stage or that level of Brahma, Apara Brahma. So that is a stage. The other one is not a stage, it is only a realization. This is a stage. This is a stage from where there can be fall, there can be moment of that realization. So that is a stage. So Brahmaloke mahiyate. So he becomes happy. Mahiyate means he is happy, he excels. So whatever it is, whether it is that supreme thing or in the other one, he excels. He is very, very happy. So whatever you want, you will get. So that is the meaning here. Is the time over?
2 more.
Okay, let us read 1 or 2 lines. Etad alambanam etad brahma praptyalambananam shreshtham prashasyatamam. So this one is prashasyatamam, the most praiseworthy. Prashasyam is something which is deserving praise. Prashasya taram means more praiseworthy. Prashasya tama, tara and tama means supreme. That is a superlative degree. That is the most praiseworthy is this Omkara. Whatever etad alambanam, this particular alambanam or this particular support is something. Etat Brahma prapti alambananam shreshtam. Of all these alambanas, of all the things, of all the strategies, of all the pujas, of all the rituals, this is the greatest alambana. So that is why sannyasis, they do not do any other worship. They just do Omkara Upasana. So we do this Sandhya Vandana, we do some Devatarchana and whatnot. But whereas sannyasis, they just follow what is this, say Mandukya Upanishad teaching. They just do this Omkara Upasana. Nothing more than that. Just Omkara Upasana. So this is the Prashasya Tamam. Etad alambanam param aparam cha Parapara Brahma Vishayatvat. So this alambanam is great because it is having this Parabrahma as a Vishaya, Apara Brahma also as a Vishaya. Vishaya means it covers. Vishayam means topic. Parabrahma also is its topic. Apara Brahma also is its topic, which means it is also covering Parabrahma, it is also covering Apara Brahma. It is the strategy for attaining both. So that is it. Param aparam cha para apara brahma vishayatvat, because it is having Parabrahma as a Vishaya and also Apara Brahma as a Vishaya. Then etadalambanam jnatva brahmaloke mahiyate parasmin brahmani. So the first meaning is parasmin brahmani, that is in Parabrahma he revels. That is in Parabrahma he revels means he is in that state of Brahman awareness. So that is it. Then aparasminscha brahmabhuto brahmavat upasyo bhavati ityarthaha. So he is in this apara brahma. If he is bothered about that apara brahma only, aparasminscha means aparasmin plus cha, that is if he is interested in that apara brahma only, brahmabhutaha brahmavad upasyaha bhavati. So this man, he attains that brahmaloka, that apara brahmaloka, and then he is on par with that apara brahma. So it depends on the intensity of that meditation. It depends on the intensity of that meditation. We see some stories of so many saints and then so many rishis and munis who go to a particular loka and then who stay in that loka. So he attains that particular level, and then brahmavad upasyaha bhavati. So he is on par with him, and so like that Brahman, he also becomes worthy of worship. Upasyaha is worthy of worship. He becomes worthy for worship. So mahiyate. Mahiyate means he becomes great. He becomes worthy of worship. So why? Because he has attained that loka and he is on par with that Brahma. So that is what this means. So this mantra it has ended now. We will take up the next mantra in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.